Hello, in this video I'm going to talk about a fun visual build that I have created. This is not a meta build. This is not meant for vet trials and very difficult dungeon environments. This is meant for overland, casual, fun play where you're just kind of running around doing whatever kind of content. You could probably run this in random dungeons, alright. This will do enough damage for that, or maybe even some veteran DLC dungeons as long as they're not super difficult ones where there's DPS checks involved. Just keep that in mind. This is for fun. This is not a, a meta build, as I said. Basically, where I got the idea to do this build, I'm probably going to do several other different builds and videos like this. So um, if you like this video going forward, make sure you have your notification bell turned on and you're subscribed and all of that. But I basically got the idea for this build from the rework that they've done with the Dragonknight, where they're adding visuals. As you can see, they made this Incinerate skill much more visually appealing, and they've given a lot of visual changes to the Dragonknight toolkit overall, and they've changed how the skills work. The passives are a little bit different as well. Um, so basically, I have created a fun to look at build that still does enough damage to do most of the activities in the game. If you want to do uh, achievements and whatnot, this will get the job done just fine. You don't need to have a meta trials build that hits 100,000 DPS plus for a whole lot of things in this game. You pretty much only need that if you're going to go into scoreboard type activity, something like that. So now that I've covered that thoroughly enough, I hope, let's get into the build. I call this build Burning Rain, and the reason why is because this is basically just a shit ton of fire. The three sets that I'm running are Valken Scoria, which causes meteors to come down from the sky and hit your enemies when you do damage over time effects. I'm also running the Shadow of the Red Mountain. This is from Stonefall's Overland. And then the set from Bloodroot Forge called Flame Blossom. So if you don't know where those are, if in the collection sticker book, Overland, Ebonheart pack, go to Stonefalls, and it is the top set here. And then in the DLC dungeons, we have Bloodroot Forge. It is the center set here. And then obviously Valken Scoria comes from City of Ash 2, one of the longest cruddier dungeons in the game, I know. But that's where those sets come from. Now let's go over what the sets do real quickly. As I said, the meteors come out when you do damage over time on an enemy. For Shadow of the Red Mountain, you just deal damage with a weapon, or weapon ability works as well. It doesn't have to be a light attack. It can be an actual, for example, I'm on my back bar distro. The blockade skill will trigger Shadow of the Red Mountain if it was active on the back bar. So then the back bar set that I have is Flame Blossom, and all you have to do is deal damage to trigger that once every 10 seconds. So how do I have this set up? Let's get into that. This is a Magicka build, as you can probably tell. 64 points into Magicka. I currently have the Thief Mundus Stone on. That's just pretty much where I figured it would be best to put on there. If you don't have it set up exactly like I do, you may struggle with Magicka recovery because you can drain a little bit low on Magicka, so you may have to run either the Atronach Mundus or something like that. But that's just an advisement unless you're running it good configuration for the recoveries. It can get a little bit tough sometimes. So first off, let's go over the classes that I have on here. Obviously, Ardent Flame, number 1 from the Dragonknight. Dawn's Wrath from the Templar, and Gravelord from the Necromancer. So, as I've covered the attributes already. Food, let's cover that real quick because that's something I tend to forget sometimes. Slottable here, I'm just running Tripot potions and Ghastly Eyeball. I don't really have a problem with health being that low in most scenarios. If you are going to run any more difficult content where you need a bigger health bar, I would recommend probably using Red Frothgar if you've got it. That would probably be the best. I don't think I have any of that food on me, but I think I have some in my bank. Let me just pull that up. Okay, here we go. Here's Red Frothgar, gives you 5,395 max health with 493 mag recovery. So your mag recovery would have that 493 recovery still that you get from, well, it's a little bit more than what Ghastly Eyeball gives you, but you wouldn't lose out on the mag recovery, but that's essential on this build is you need a lot of mag recovery because you can drain out pretty quickly. So now that we've gone over the classes and the potions and the food, let's just go over the weapons and the gear. I have both 5-piece sets are on the front bar, one dagger each, and that is set up this way because I like to have 4 pieces active at all times. So as you can see on the screen here, I have, let's just start from the bottom, 2 rings on the Flame Blossom set, and then a belt, and then a back bar Inferno. So on my back bar, I have 5 pieces active, and then when I flip to the front, I have a dagger of Blossom on the front so that it stays 4 pieces at least at all times. And why I do that is so I can take advantage of that line bonus there of penetration. Additionally, when I go to my back bar, I have Red Mountain, 4 pieces active at all times, and the way I can do that is I have a chest, gloves, legs, and boots of Red Mountain that are on my body at all times, and then I have a dagger up on the front for my 5th piece up front. So I have 2 proc sets basically, and then the monster set is Valkynscoria. So we can do the skills here really quickly on the front bar. I have Incinerate, which is the morph of Inferno. This used to be like a projectile. It is now an AoE flame damage that hits instantly every 5 seconds. It has a chance to imply burning, and it gives me major prophecy and savagery regardless of what bar I'm on. Next up, I have Mystic Siphon. This is sitting on my front bar for 2 reasons. One, to give me a passive 3% increased damage. Also, when I activate it, it gives me recoveries, which is very helpful, and it does shock damage to whoever is touching the tether. The other big reason I chose Gravelords is the passives are really, really good for solo content. This gives you a lot of critical chance when you're about to kill something, and it gives you a ton of penetration while you are having a skill active. It doesn't have to be necessarily slotted, it just has to be active, and I'll cover that in a second. And then the increase in damage over time is passive as well. From Rapid Rot, you get 10% increase there. So that's why I like to choose Gravelords for solo activity. There's a lot of powerful passives there. So we'll get into that. But next up, we have Burning Embers. This is my spammable on the kit. This inflicts burning status on the initial hit, and it is actually a pretty cheap spammable now because they have reworked the combustion passive to give you resources every time you apply burning, and this does that on the first tick. I know a lot of people call the whip the spammable for Dragonknight. I don't necessarily agree with that. This is in my opinion, the quasi execute. I know there's going to be some debate on that. That's just how I consider it. And the reason is because if you sit here and spam this, granted, it's not about damage done. This does more damage than the embers. I'm not arguing that. The fact is that you cannot get your stacks of Seething Fury by spamming this. You have to spam something else. So I spam this twice and then hit this. So it's kind of similar to how you build up Crux on an Arcanist and then Beam. This is a very similar mechanic here. You pop this twice, 2 or 3 times to get your Seething Fury up, and then you smack this. This also gives you, this used to be 100 weapon and spell damage per stack. This is another rework that they did. This now gives you 15% increased damage done, which is a huge buff because the 300 weapon and spell damage, if you wanted to equate 15%, would only have been a level of 2,000 weapon and spell damage. So when you start getting up into, for example, that's kind of a low there. Let me pop my major brutality and sorcery, and even that they're 5639. So 15% of 5639. We'll just run that real quickly in the calculator. Equates to 845 weapon and spell damage. So it's a massive buff to the Dragonknight that they've done there. Almost 3 times the weapon damage that you can get from the stacks of Seething Fury. It's not as long; it only lasts 10 seconds. But if you're using this as your spammable, you pretty much are never going to drop that off. It's just not going to happen. So if you use this as your spammable, you're losing out on that quite a bit. So keep that in mind. Also, when you deal direct damage with this traumatic burning passive, the enemies take 5% more damage from flame damage. So if you're on a primarily fire build like I am, not only is it 15%, it's now 20 because of this stack right here. Also, you can get up to 20% increased damage by using this method. And then this right here, the Fans of Flame, increases your chance of applying burning. Obviously, because this has a guaranteed burning on the first hit, that's not as pivotal for that. But any other fire skill that you're using will be increasing the chance there. And the damage done that burning does is upped by 40% with this. And that is the reason why I have 3 Ardent Flame skills on the front bar, because this passive here is directed by how many you have slotted, as you can see by that last sentence there. It has increased the values of those numbers by how many skills you have slotted on the bar. And then this bottom one is nice to have, not great for the build, but it's nice to have. It's an increase in healing taken. So anytime you heal yourself or somebody else heals you, you'll get 8% more healing. So that is it for the Dragonknight skills on the front bar. I actually don't have anything on the back bar other than Standard of Might. So the rest of the front bar consists of Radiant Glory, which is the Templar Dawn's Wrath Execute, and then I have Flawless Dawnbreaker on the front bar ultimate to proc the Undaunted passives and give me increased weapon and spell damage there. So back bar, this Skeletal Archer does a couple of things for me. One, it gives me Major Brutality and Sorcery while it's out, and then it also procs the Dismember passive here, giving me 3,271 penetration. And that is really important because when I'm Overland out around doing stuff on my own, we'll wait that drop off there. The penetration of Overland is 9,000, so I'm not quite there yet. So in order to penetrate 100%, you have to get about 2,700 more penetration here, and that's you could do that with Minor Breach or something like that, but then you're taking up a skill that you don't maybe have on your bar already. And so what I chose to do is run Gravelords, which is really helpful because it's giving me something that I need anyway. So when I pop this and I go into my character screen, now I'm up and over 9,000, and I'm basically ripping right through enemy resistances with that. So the next skill that I have on my back bar, this is a really huge, massive skill to use. Solar Barrage. This is a very, very powerful skill for the Templar Dawn's Wrath toolkit. And why that is because this increases the damage of your entire toolkit by 5% while it's active. It does not have to be just a Templar class ability. This goes across all classes that you are running. So that's 5% there. It does AoE damage every 2 seconds. And then on top of that, this helps me keep up the Illuminate passive, which will buff my damage another 10%. So this is actually a one button 15% increase damage done with those two things considered. Also, we have an ultimate generator, pardon me, and then the passive that reduces the costs of abilities for the Dawn's Wrath skill line, which is a true passive as well. So then for the next skill, I'm using the Mage's Scribing skill, very simple. Flame damage, obviously, because of the buffs for flame damage on this build, and flame damage over time for the next script. And then I have Minor Intellect and Minor Endurance selected for the last script there, the affix script. And this is really pivotal because it helps sustain quite a bit. If you don't have something that's providing you minor intellect, you might want to look at minor Magicka steel. That's another helpful one. And then I have Blockade of Fire on here. And then Gravelord's Sacrifice. This increases my damage done by damage over time abilities by 15%. So a total of 25% damage over time increase just from the Gravelord skills. And as I said, I have Standard of Might. So those are the skills that I have on here. And we've covered the gear. Let's cover the champion points. Now, ironically, this build is primarily single target direct damage. There are some damage over time, but it's primarily those two. You can pop between Fighting Finesse and Wrathful Strikes, and then I have Exploiter currently slotted because I was parsing earlier, just to kind of figure out where to put these on the build. Now that we've got the Battle Scrolls add-on, that's a really helpful add-on for figuring out what to put on your bar and all that. So I don't know that I still have my parse that I did on this earlier, but I'll just go downstairs where my dummies are, and we'll see what this build looks like in action. Again, this is a visual build. It's not necessarily meant to be burying the needle on damage or anything like that. It's meant to be fun to look at and still do some damage. So I'll just stand here and individually fire off some of the sets in case you don't know what they look like. I'll hit Flame Blossom first. This is really easy to do. All you have to do is do damage while you have the set active. So I'm on my back bar. I'm just going to light attack this guy, and you'll see there will be a little wave of fire that comes out of me and goes across the floor, and it will hit all of these guys right here. So there's the fire there. It's going across the floor, as you can see, and it hits everything, and it's got quite a long path that it goes. I would say it's probably at least 28 meters of track there that it goes on. So it's quite a long way of of ground that you can hit if you just are conscious about where to line that up. And the next one I'm going to show is Shadow of the Red Mountain. All you have to do with this one, super simple, you just hit a light attack, and there it is. Bang, it hits the guy. Kind of underwhelming damage on that one. Wait for him to come back up, and I'll hit him again, see if it hits for better. Maybe that was a fluke. There we go, 15,000. A little better. The nice thing about this setup here is one skill will fire off all 3 of your sets at a time, and that is the all you have to do is drop your blockade and bar swap to your front bar, and it will fire off every single one of these. There's Valkynscoria, and there's Red Mountain. I'll just drop it again. There's Valkynscoria. There's Flame Blossom. There's all 3 of them hitting. So that's just kind of a quick showcase of all 3 of them. There's the Meteor. There's Red Mountain coming out. More Red Blossom and Valkynscoria. So that's just me hitting Wall of Elements. Everything else that you're seeing is from the sets. So now I will clear those off. Stick him over here in the middle. And now I'll just kind of go through a rotation to show you what this looks like when you have everything going at once. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff firing off and blasting off and making big flames and everything. So this was kind of the inspiration of the build, is to just kind of make a massive fire bomb type of build and just make it fun to look at, basically. Again, like I said, this is not anything that's meta, but it's just meant to be fun while you're running around doing stuff. And it does okay damage, as you can see. It's not anything that's face melting or anything like that, but as you can see from this, it's got roughly 20,000 damage or so. I don't have any breach on the build. That's something that you could put in there if that's something you want to mess with. A good addition would be the Unnerving Boneyard here. That's got major breach. Then you'd be able to work in minor breach somehow. Then that would be probably something that would boost your damage on the build. What else have I not covered here? Let's see. I am a Dark Elf on this. By the way, forgot to mention that at the beginning of the video. Most of my DPS all of my DPS are Dark Elves, and not too many of them are. I have Imperial tanks and Breton healers, so I guess I didn't cover the gear traits very well. Nirnhone Flame on the front bar dagger, Charged Poison for the Blossom dagger, Infused Weapon Damage for the back bar. All of the armor glyphs are Magicka. All the gear traits are Divines. You can pick up Red Mountain Overland, or you can buy it in traders if you want. You can look for the Valkynscoria mask in Cyrodiil. Also, the shoulders could also be there. If you have AP and you don't have Undaunted Keys, or you don't have this collected and you don't have Transmute Crystals, those are options. And unfortunately, Flame Blossom is dungeon gear. There is a possibility this could also be available in the Cyrodiil gold vendor, but I wouldn't bet on that so much. And the Velothi mythic, all of my jewelry is bloodthirsty weapon damage glyphs. So I don't necessarily have a rotation per se. I just kind of start with pre-buff on the back bar and then get everything active that I can. And then I just fire off my weapon damage glyph, and then I spam to get my Seething Fury stacks up, and then I just keep those going, and that's pretty much it. I mean, there's a lot of this is just AoE, and as you'll figure out while you're playing, there's not really a whole lot of enemies out there that are going to be standing around after you get through one or two of the rotations. I mean, most of the stuff in Overland dies pretty quickly, so that's why this is a lot more fun build than most of the other builds you see out there. Just to showcase the Dragonknight rework skills a little bit, in case you haven't seen those. The Incinerate skill looks like this, and then when you walk up and you hit something, there's the wave right there. The Embers has the claw on it, as you can see, and then the Dragonknight whip has an added animation there, makes it look more realistic. So let me get that one more time. There's the whip. And then the AoE of the Incinerate is really cool because it hits everything in the area. It's a lot better than it was before, where it was just a couple of projectiles. This hits everything in a fiery ring, so that's really cool. But I'm going to end the video here. If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Please turn on your notification bell so when I upload more content, you can see when I do that. If you go to my YouTube channel, go down to my created playlists, I have over 200 videos on my YouTube channel now, and I've got a pretty big catalog of videos. So if you go down to my created playlists, you'll be able to see all of my videos that are organized on there, and they're separated by content. I've got actually over 250 videos now, correct me. So the created playlists, I have a companion playlist, I have a beginners playlist, I have a set overviews playlist, all kinds of different categories. The one set playlist that I like to call out and give some interest to some people is my Elder Scrolls Online songs that I create. I want to give some additional information on this in case people are pigeonholing this as to being AI spam. That is not what this is. I write the lyrics for these songs. It takes quite a bit of time to do that. And then I also create some original new visuals. I steer the ship, so to speak, when I'm running AI content in creating songs. It is not me playing the instruments and creating the music per se, but I do direct what type of genre the song is, and I do write the lyrics for them and put all the ideas together. And I made several videos for fun to listen to. If you don't want to listen to them and it's not your thing, great. But I just wanted to provide some extra education on that in case people are just assuming that I'm typing in a prompt into AI and then pressing a button and getting something out like you would a vending machine. That is not what I do with these. I write the lyrics and add some serious storytelling detail to the songs. It's not just me typing in a short prompt and then kicking it into a video. It takes quite a lot of time to build those and create the videos for those. So if that's something that interests you, I would appreciate you guys checking those out. As I said, they are meant to kind of tell the story of things regarding the game in a musical background. So I'm hoping that you guys check those out and take a listen and see what you think. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.